let me turn to a brief series of reflections from Faheen Allibhoy, who is the Managing Director heading the JP Morgan Development Finance Institution. Faheen has nearly 2 decades of experience prior to that at the IFC, so is well steeped in what it takes to really make a difference to development. Faheen, welcome.
Thank you so much, Ketan. Pleasure to be here.
Thanks. Let me begin with the big question, the broader question, Faheen. Why was the JP Morgan DFI set up? What's its vision, mission, and reason for being?
So again, thank you so much for having me. And very simply put, the JP Morgan Development Finance Institution was launched in January 2020, last year, fortuitously, to mobilize capital towards the emerging markets. Our objective is to assess the development impact of the transactions that JP Morgan is involved with in order to help our clients better articulate the anticipated impacts of the transactions they're doing and the funds they're raising, but also to grow the pool of capital available and interested in transactions that offer both financial returns and development impact. I think, Ketan, we were launched at a very fortuitous time, and I think the vision and mission are based in that context. As you know, last year was 10 years from 2 very important global agenda that the world is coalescing around. One is the Paris Climate Accord. The second is the Sustainable Development Goals, both of which we aim to achieve in 2030. Many firms, including our own, including JP Morgan, are aligning around these goals and aiming to contribute to meeting the gaps that these agenda outline, and hope that private capital can play an amazing role in solving. We have tried to be ambitious. JP Morgan has set out a target of 2.5 trillion over the next 10 years in sustainable finance and climate, and the DFI is part of that vision. The second part of reasoning for setting up the DFI is the importance of the emerging markets that today already make up a big part of the global economy. However, so many citizens in emerging markets still don't have access to basic infrastructure, be it hard infrastructure, be it healthcare, be it education. And I think that this was really amplified last year during COVID on how interconnected we are, how our supply chains work together, and the fact that working to improve the quality of lives of people all over the world, including the emerging markets, is important. So our mandate is focused on the 144 countries that are eligible to borrow from the World Bank and aim to have a development impact in transactions and use of proceeds that build infrastructure and bridge the SDGs in those countries. And I think thirdly, there is just a growing consciousness and realization of the importance of measuring impact in financial transactions. I think we've seen a tailwind of ESG, and I think we are moving towards financial institutions and companies wanting to articulate not only the financial impacts of what they do, but also how they may build infrastructure, how they may provide telecom services, how they may, improve health, education, and definitely how they have a role in mitigating climate. So in that broader context, the JP Morgan DFI was set up to help bring that kind of lens analysis and impact framework to the transactions that JP Morgan does in the emerging markets.
Faheen, that's really timely and very interesting. As you say, the decade of action only began last year, and in a very timely fashion, JP Morgan has entered that field with development finance. It's only been a short time, but how have you executed against that mandate? Give us some examples of the impact that you think you're starting to have already in terms of sustainable development.
Absolutely. I think, in the past 18 months, we've really tried to achieve against 4 objectives. And you may have seen that we put out an annual report earlier this year that captured the first year. So I think the first thing we tried to do, and I think we've been able to, is really putting our methodology into action. As you know, we had partnered with the IFC before our launch to help bring IFC's AIM methodology to apply to JP Morgan's transactions. And last year, we're able to assess more than 400 JP Morgan transactions for their development impact, to do a development gap analysis and investment contribution analysis and SDG analysis. So I think putting that framework into action and assessing the transactions was one big part of what we did. The second was that we actually acted as a development finance structuring agent for multiple transactions last year and even more this year. In that respect, we helped work with our clients to help them articulate the development impact of their transactions in offering memos, in offering documents to different investors. And I think this is a real innovation to the market, where we are trying to put the development impact with actual metrics out to investors so that they can look at them and evaluate them as they please. We also are working very closely to identify sources of capital that are interested in this space. I think there are definitely more and more institutional investors that are interested in doing ESG-focused investments, impact-focused investments, and of course, emerging markets-focused investments. And this helps marry these three buckets and allows investors to know, clients that are interested in articulating and reporting their development impacts as well. And I think finally, we've had the opportunity to collaborate with the public sector DFIs. In some of our transactions, we've been able to have them come in as anchor investors. An example is earlier this year, Liquid Telecom, which is a broadband and fiber provider in sub-Saharan Africa, went to the bond markets. IFC came in there as an anchor investor. A little bit later this year, Georgia Rail also did a corporate bond transaction, and there the EBRD and the ADB came in as anchor investors. So we really hope to also partner with these institutions that bring a lot of knowledge and experience in these markets to the transactions and impact of what we're doing.
And I really feel like, from what you've said, that there's an opportunity to work across multiple stakeholders and for you to partner and bring the financial might of JP Morgan and its clients to bear. But and I think that's very powerful. Looking ahead, and I know we only have you for a short while here, and we're delighted to hear you talk about this. How will the JP Morgan DFI make a difference to critical issues that underlie the SDGs?
Absolutely. I think that we plan to play a role in that continuum of finance in the emerging markets that help bridge the gap of the SDGs. JP Morgan, as a sell-side financial intermediary, plays the role of originating and distributing assets, as you know. So what we would like to do is really bring the practice of impact and development finance to the sell side of the financial landscape. And we would really like to expand our capacities to support the origination and then distribution of development finance assets for our clients, to basically create products that have development impact at their heart, such as lending to SMEs or agricultural supply chains and trade finance, food security, climate smart agri, things of that nature, but are also sound investments for our clients and the institutional investors that come into these transactions. Looking ahead, I think that we would also really like to align our methodology. We have put our methodology on our website. It is something new. We would love to collaborate with others to help improve the methodology, for others to align with it. We think metrics, monitoring, and reporting are very important. And I think that we're all grappling with how to do it well. And we would love to work with others and partner with others in making this a much more established space. And I think we are committed to annual reporting, for example, as we look forward, to make sure that we let people know how we're doing, and to kind of have that dialogue and partnership with all the different stakeholders that you mentioned, Ketan. And finally, I think it would be amazing if impact or development impact became a traded asset class, that when you went to the market and bought a corporate bond, or we're part of a syndicated loan facility or an equity private placement, that you had the option of knowing that there was an impact behind that investment you were making. So that's something that is our objective for the long term.
Very good to hear that, Faheen. Thank you. And I know it was very short, but we're delighted you could actually spend some time with us and tell us about that. And we actually hope very much that others will follow where you're leading, and that if we were doing this a year from now, there'll be half a dozen more development finance institutions from the private sector that also see this opportunity that you see. Any final words from you are very welcome. Thanks, Faheen.
No, thank you so very much. And I can only echo that we hope that we have more partners and stakeholders that see meaning in helping bridge the SDGs and bringing the private sector to this mission.
Thank you. Thank you, Faheen.